UN Ambassador Nikki Haley negotiating a $285 million cut from the United Nations, quote, bloated budget for next year.
In a statement, she says the inefficiency and overspending of the United Nations are well known. We will no longer let the generosity of the American people be taken advantage of or remain unchecked.
All this following the UN's vote to condemn the president's decision recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Here to weigh in, Harvard Law School professor and lifelong Democrat Alan Dershowitz. Thanks so much for being here with us on a Christmas morning. And besides the obvious financial savings, why is this move so important?
Well, first of all, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Alan Dershowitz.
Merry Christmas.
Me being on the show is part of an old family tradition. Everybody in our family used to work on Christmas Day so that our Christian colleagues and friends could be home for their family. So it's a pleasure for me to be working today so that others can be home and enjoying Christmas with their family. Now, as far as what Nikki Haley has done, it's, I think, terrific. It's about time we sent a message to the UN, which has become a place of hate when it comes to the United States and Israel. You know that Abba Eban, who is Israel's representative to the UN, once said that if Algeria introduced a resolution that the earth was flat and that Israel flattened it, it would win by a vote of 120 to 63 with 28 abstentions. And there has to be consequences for this kind of voting. Look, what Donald Trump did, President Trump did, in recognizing Jerusalem was the right thing. What it did is it struck the balance that President Obama had undone when he changed the status quo at the end of his presidency by declaring the Western Wall, the Jewish Quarter, the access roads to Hebrew University and Hadassah Hospital to be illegally occupied territory. That's what changed the status quo. What President Trump did was to restore balance, and everybody should have recognized that. And that vote at the Security Council and the General Assembly should be responded to. And Nikki Haley, who's become a real hero, did exactly the right thing, and it's the first of many steps I think she'll take to bring the United Nations back to where it ought to be, a neutral arbiter of peace, not a place of hatred.
Professor, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, Professor, I was going to say you've written extensively on the topic of Israel in general, but we're just getting word that Guatemala has now joined the United States in a decision to move their embassy to the capital as well. What are your thoughts on that? Will we see more countries getting on board?
Well, I think we'll see a few more countries getting on board. There'll be a lot of pressure not to do it. But Israel has established very good relations with some Central and South American countries, some African countries, India, China. They're not going to vote with Israel right away, but they're seeing a closer relationship. Even some of the Gulf states, the Arab Gulf states, now see Israel as a potential ally against Iran. And again, it was President Obama who created strength in the Iranian regime by handing over so much money. And now we hear reports that maybe even he interfered with the Justice Department investigation of some Hezbollah-related drug dealings. If that's true, it really has to be looked into in great detail. Look, Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, America's strongest ally in the Middle East, and the United States and other countries ought to be supportive. The capital of Israel has always been Jerusalem. There can also be a Palestinian capital in East Jerusalem if the Palestinians come to the bargaining table, make the kind of compromises that are essential to assure Israel's security, and want to make a real peace. The day the Palestinians want there to be a Palestinian state more than they don't want there to be a Jewish state in the region, we will see the basis for peace established.
Professor, I want to quickly just get one more subject in with you, and that is Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe reportedly retiring at the beginning of 2018. I chased him down the hallways in between multiple House hearings with the Judiciary Committee and the Intelligence Committee. Clearly, quite a big story. The president actually tweeting about him not favorably yesterday. What are your thoughts on the McCabe situation and the larger question of, are we going to learn whether or not he was biased against the Trump administration?
Well, first of all, everybody tells me who knows McCabe and has worked in the FBI that he's a very decent guy and was an excellent deputy director. Having said that, he should have recused himself immediately from any investigation involving Hillary Clinton because of his wife's connections to Hillary Clinton. When you're investigating a presidential candidate, whether it be Hillary Clinton or President Trump, you have to be Caesar's wife. You have to be above reproach. You have to make sure not only there are no conflicts, but there are no perceived conflicts. Not only is there no bias, but there's no perception of bias. And he didn't pass that test. He gave his enemies, the other side, ammunition to go after him. And I think that's been a big problem with the Mueller investigation. Whether there's actual bias or not, we'll only know in the end. But the perception of bias is there, and it should never be there when you're conducting an investigation of this importance involving people who are so high in government or intend to be so high in government, candidates for president of the United States.
All right. Thank you, Professor. We appreciate you joining us here on this Christmas morning, and thank you for your insights. We appreciate it.
Everybody. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you. God bless you, and God bless America.